So what are they hiding? Left-wing media really wants you to ignore the inconsistencies and reporting around the bridge collapse story. What is really going on here? So anytime the left-wing media, by the way, tells you to look one way, I always want to look the other way. So almost immediately after the crash, President Biden came out, gave a press conference like first thing in the morning before his flight, where he said the federal government would pay the full bill for this crash. The full bill. Really? The federal government is footing the bill 100% for this? I don't seem to remember him doing this for the people of East Palestine, Ohio, after Norfolk Southern train derailed. No one, remember when we had, of course, the massive disaster there. Did you guys remember that? I don't remember the Biden administration coming back. You know what? We're going to rebuild your community. No questions asked. We're going to take care of everything and we're going to rebuild. No.
Good point.
Biden didn't go there. In fact, he didn't even go there for a year. People are like, when are you going to actually go to East Palestine, Ohio? And then when he did go there, what did he do? He called out Norfolk Southern as greedy. That's what he did. He basically said that it was their fault. They're greedy. So, okay, quite a different tone. Also the same thing in Hawaii, the Lahaina fires. I mean, I could go down a laundry list of instances where this bridge collapse in Baltimore is kind of different, don't you think? Ohio residents had been calling on Biden to declare a federal disaster, seek help from the EPA, because many people are now experiencing life-altering health problems. So before his appearance there just a few weeks ago, the residents are like, can you have the EPA issue some sort of investigation here? Because we're suffering all kinds of health problems here. So it's very strange that Biden came right out and immediately declared federal money and a response. Watch.
I spoke with Governor Moore this morning, as well as the mayor of Baltimore, the county executive, both United States senators and the congressman. And my Secretary of Transportation is on the scene. I told them we're going to send all the federal resources they need as we respond to this emergency. And I mean all the federal resources. And we're going to rebuild that port together.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, all of it. And then a reporter even was like, hey, did I just hear you correctly? Did you just really say what I think you said? Because that's odd. And good for this reporter to do like an immediate follow-up. A lot of the times it just goes right over people's heads and they don't understand the context of this. But this reporter managed to ask this question. Wait a second. Did I hear you correctly, Mr. President? Watch.
The federal government's also going to pay for the repairs. I'm just curious. This was a ship that appears to be at fault. Is there any reason to believe that the company behind the ship should be held responsible? And then also, you mentioned
we're going to pay for it to get the bridge rebuilt and opened. What did you?
That's interesting.
It's an amazing response to have first thing in the morning. Like, it happens at 1:27 a.m.
Yeah.
First thing in the morning, the Biden administration already has a response to this. And they also in that same press conference said nothing to see here. Okay. Well, as one of our favorite Twitter accounts, Cat Turd, pointed out, the bridge collapsed at 1:30 a.m. By 8 a.m. the next morning, all officials had done an investigation and determined it was just an accident. 4 hours later, Biden hit the mic and said taxpayers would pay for the full rebuild. Nothing to see here. Pull my finger. So maybe it is nothing, right? Maybe we just foot the bill and then you pay us back, right? You, the shipping company, Forrester, group, Maersk. It's all weird ownership structure. But anyway, you'll pay us back.
But the train crash is a great example of how there were arguments over who was at fault. There's litigation, even still, whose insurance should be paying for it. So I guess we pay for all accidents now. Does that include, to what level, right?
Right.
To what level? If I drive into a pole, do I not have to pay for that?
Right. I mean, exactly. I mean, if this is an accident, then shouldn't the federal government just pay for all of our accidents now? Like, and what level rises to the level the federal government's going to step in? What if I'm on a small boat, Right. When I have just an accident in a small boat. Or
when it's snowing and Clayton backs into the backyard fence, which happened.
Yeah. Or like when Natalie's shopping, and she just drives over one of those cement middle divider
That
things.
was in high school? You didn't even know me then?
Doesn't matter.
This is not fair. That's not fair game.
It's part of the official record, but Biden,
I totally did that. I drove into like an empty planter in my high school. Like there just wasn't a tree into it. So I tried to go forward instead of back. And the whole football team had to lift my car out of the planter.
So there you go. The whole football team comes out to rescue this.
They're like, "What did you do?"
This beautiful woman.
I don't know. And they're like, "Let's get our car out of there, boys."
Like, let's show off the guns. Let's go rescue Natali. Let's lift up the truck.
He only knows that story because my sister outed me.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So why shouldn't the Biden administration just cover all of these accidents now immediately? I seem to remember BP's Deepwater Horizon oil rig disaster being paid for by BP, right? I seem to remember Exxon Valdez in Alaska, Exxon having to foot that bill. In fact, Exxon had to pay a record amount of money for that disaster, by the way, under the EPA. According to the EPA, it was a record $1 billion back in 1989 when this all happened. So this bridge collapse killed 6 people. Killed 6 people. Did the Deepwater Horizon, how many people were killed as a result of that? How many people were killed as a result of Exxon Valdez? How many people are suffering as a result of the East Palestine, Ohio train derailment? But the federal government steps right in to cover this. 6 people killed as a result of this. And now they're calling off the investigation or the search to find these other individuals in the water because the water's so cold. According to them, there's no chance that they would have survived, according to the Coast Guard. So 6 people dead, enormous environmental concerns with chemicals, vehicles, shipping lane that will now be shut down indefinitely. And the government says, we got this. Nothing to see here, move along. But that seems to be the least of the oddities, if you can imagine that. Like, that to me stands out as a real bizarre set of circumstances. But the real question is this, as the New York Times asks, why did the ship hit the bridge? It's not known, according to the New York Times or the Baltimore Sun or any of the major publications. The National Transportation Safety Board said it is investigating. So we'll have to wait, of course, until we get that official NTSB response. Here's the Baltimore Sun, though, this afternoon. Clayton Diamond, not to be confused with your humble host of Redacted, Clayton Morris. Clayton Diamond, executive director of the American Pilots Association, confirmed that the ship had a complete blackout and lost power to its engine and navigation equipment a few minutes before the collision. It never regained power, Diamond confirmed via email. I spoke to a ship's captain this afternoon, the United States military, who also confirmed that the likelihood of the ship regaining power was, when you saw the flickering lights, it's likely the backup diesel generator that kicked on to provide some lights on board, but this was not enough to power the ship. So confirmation from the Pilots Association that power never returned to the ship. Once it was out, the lights you saw flickering there was no recovery. There was no shipping, there was no steering power, and there was no engine power. So even though you see the lights, that was just to help people see on board. As we reported yesterday, they would have been a Chesapeake Bay harbor pilot on board directing the ship out of the port, which is standard operating procedure. We now know that there were 2 on board, in addition to the 20-person crew that was on board. They called a Mayday call, of course, after they lost power. Construction workers were able to save a lot of the lives by stopping the flow of traffic across that bridge. So you might say to yourself, why would they call a Mayday distress signal and alert the bridge crew and the construction workers to get people off the bridge? Why would they send out a Mayday signal if they were trying to kill people? Right? I think that's what our minds, if that's some sort of a terrorist attack, then they're trying to kill people. They're trying to cause mass casualties, so why would they send a Mayday call? If they had no control over the ship and individuals piloting the ship had no control, they were unable to steer, and of course they had no power. Well, that's assuming
that they were doing it on purpose, not that something was being done to them.
Which we'll get to in a second, right? Because if this all comes down, all this comes down to, as journalist Laura Logan confirmed with intelligence sources today, that this was in fact a cyber attack. So they would have called a Mayday. They're Americans. They're trying to save people's lives. They would have, our ship just lost power. What the hell's happening here? Mayday, Mayday, we have no control over our ship. So this, as
Which isn't totally plausible. You know, when you see these hacker competitions, they can hack cars. They can hack elevators in your hotel. They can, I mean, everything is hackable. So I don't know the technology of a ship, but it's not really a stretch to think that they could.
I'll bring this up again, but 10 years ago, when I was still at Fox News, I went and did a segment in Pittsburgh with a head of security at the time. I forget exactly what organization. Anyway, they were showing that they were able to hack these cars. Every car is now hackable. And so they had...
Not Phillips. He refuses to drive a car with any computers.
So I got in this car, they hacked the car, and they were sitting in a parking lot while I was driving the car. They hacked the car, and they took over control of the car, and they drove literally the car into a ditch. And they were sort of laughing about it. We were,
You sure that wasn't you that drove into the ditch?
No, I was actually trying to hold it onto the road, and I was scared that they almost hit a tree, and I could have been. We were going fast too. They accelerated and they drove me off the road into a ditch, and I had no control over the car. Afterwards, I was kind of pissed because you literally, I was almost hitting a tree. You could have killed me. Anyway, so that was 10 years ago.
Right.
Think about the technology advancements now. Anyway, so this is what Laura Logan confirmed with her intelligence sources inside the Biden administration and outside the Biden administration. This is brilliant, she says. A well-planned strategic attack on one of the most important supply chains in the United States of America. Why are you coming to the microphone telling the country that it's not terrorism, she asked, when your own intelligence agencies are telling you that it is? And she's confirmed this with her own intelligence sources. Listen.
And here's the other thing that's concerned me. Why they run to the mic, had McCabe on this morning at Sunrise on CNN saying it's not terrorism, it's not terrorism, it's not terrorism. It might not be terrorism. But why do you come to the mic right away? These are the type, we need facts, we need empirical evidence, we need an investigation. What is your investigation telling you?
Well, I have a better question for you, Steve. Why are you coming to the mic telling the country that it's not terrorism when your own intelligence agencies are telling you it is? And I know they are, because I didn't make this up. These are not my words, right? I'm talking to people who are on the inside, some who are on active duty, some who are retired, and everyone, literally, from critical infrastructure in Department of Homeland Security to the intelligence agencies, they know there's no other, this is a cyber attack on a critical infrastructure corridor for the United States. This is, for those people who think this is just a river, this is in Baltimore, what does this matter? You don't know anything about what you're talking about. The I-94 corridor on the eastern seaboard is literally what connects the north and south. And when I talk about hazardous materials, right, this is a brilliant, well-planned strategic attack on one of the most important supply chains in the United States of America.
We do know from the NTSB that they have now recovered the black box on board, and they're currently analyzing this. So we won't have an official response yet from the NTSB until this black box voyage data is confirmed and analyzed. According to the Baltimore Sun this afternoon, they are going through this information right now. But that's Laura Logan confirming that with her. Go ahead, David.
I just have a quick question. Has anyone said how many people were actually on the boat itself?
Yeah,
20.
there were 22. There were I think 22 total, and none of those individuals were hurt on their way to Sri Lanka. So none of those individuals were hurt, and you had the two pilots as well, the harbor pilots. Anytime you're leaving one of these ports, you have to have a harbor pilot on board to guide you out. So again, no matter what major port you're in, that they know these channels, they know the quays. They know the eddies in the water. They know all of that. And, of course, they're guiding you out. So two of them on board, according to the Baltimore Sun, New York Times, and others. So she goes on to say that this could take 3 to 5 years to clear out and fix, because it's not just what you're seeing above the water. It's having to literally remove the entire cement pylons, because now we don't know how stable they are. How can you just build a new bridge on top of the current cement structures? Watch.
What you don't see beneath the surface of the water, Steve, is absolutely catastrophic. It is a structural nightmare and a logistical nightmare, because you have the entire bottom part, the concrete part of that bridge, and you don't know the extent of the structural damage to that. And you won't know it until you pull all of that infrastructure out of there and you get to look at it. And so you're talking 3 to 5 years at best And what you're talking about here is probably building a new bridge. So what you have effectively done now, you've shut down the I-95 corridor that's above ground. So now you're going to have to go north to New York. You're going to have to go south to North Carolina. And your trucks, your hazardous materials are going to have to go around Baltimore now. They're not going to be able to go through it. And what else did you do? You shut down the sea corridor, the shipping corridor, because now the port is shut down, right? And so all those tankers that are out at sea that have hazardous materials on them, those are going to have to all be rerouted. And why can you not move hazardous materials through the tunnel? Why is this such a big deal? Because they created that bridge because hazardous materials, for example, oversized loads, they don't fit in the tunnel system.
Yep.
So Laura Logan's going to be on the show here. I was texting her earlier, so she's going to be on the show. We're going to talk to her more about this and get a follow-up on this. Hopefully she's traveling at the moment, but hopefully we're going to have her on tomorrow's show. So we'll talk to her more about that. However, this is devastating. I mean, just where we are now. And someone asked in the chat, like, what does she think? Who does she think is responsible for this? I mean, that's the major question here.
Well, it's not her. She says intelligence thinks. So who does intelligence think?
Right. It's not her. She's a reporter. She has intelligence sources inside the Biden administration telling her that this was a cyber attack.
Right.
And
well, yeah, and I mean, the thing is, though, you wouldn't know who was responsible for it if somebody else was responsible for it because they haven't finished the investigation yet. So why the hell are they out saying they know what it's not? You don't know what it's not because you don't know what it is.
Exactly.
Right.
Great point. So the NTSB just recovered the black box today. And Biden yesterday said there was nothing to see here. How do you know?
Right.
How do you know so quickly? And I hope that there's nothing. But of course, we already have confirmation now from intelligence sources through Laura Logan saying that this is, in fact, a cyber attack. So we'll be following the story. I just think something very fishy is going on here. And there's a lot of questions we don't know the answers to. Someone in the chat just says, Whiplash Magash says here on Rumble, says, anyone not addressing the explosions is suspect. We covered that last night on the show. We covered the explosions, the whatever you want to call them, along the top. We showed that video last night on the show where the pieces came down, and we just showed it to you. You can make your own assessment as to what those were. Many people commented and said there's clearly, electrical transformers fire as a result of it snapping power, not an explosion. So anyway, totally up to you how you see that, and we don't have any confirmation on that. But we did show it to you last night, so we definitely covered that on the show.
I guess we should be glad that they're not out there just saying it was Russia or China already, Like,
They're about to, I'm sure.
Yeah.
If they
it's coming,
could.
probably.
Give them a minute.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's all very interesting.
Can I ask a stupid question? I don't know anything about shipping containers or driving large boats or anything, but would tugboats have prevented this? Do you know?
Well, it would have, however...
Unless you hack the tugboats?
Well, yeah, but however, according to the harbor masters, you wouldn't have used tugs after it already was using its own propulsion. Mm-hmm. So you're using the tugs to get it away from the dock, but after it's underway... They
thought that it was autonomous, that it was fine.
And it was, because you can see it going on its own. Once it leaves the dock and the tugs are finished, and you're not... now you're under your own propulsion... the tugs will leave. Okay. And you're moving at 8 knots speed. The tugs are not going to be used in that purpose to drive you along. That, according to the harbor masters that I've researched today on that exact question, why were they not using tugs at that hour? So, anyway, and there's a lot of questions. Speaking to a captain this afternoon about this from the military, who drives very big ships, very big. Saying, there's a lot of questions we're waiting for the NTSB to come back with their official response. So I find this interesting that according to the NTSB, according to, captains who have this experience, like they don't want to rush to judgment on this. If they drop the anchor, did it catch or not catch? We know that they did drop an anchor on the port side of the ship. Did it catch or not catch? Was it dragging or did it catch? At which angle was the rudder facing when the power went out? This from a captain I spoke with today. Very, very important, right? Which way was the rudder facing when the power went out? And clearly, we know that the power went out after it had already changed course, We saw that from the track line that we showed you last night on the show. So anyway, we'll hopefully get to the bottom of this. I hope we'll find out some bigger answers here once the NTSB gets us more black box information. Again, hopefully Laura will be on the show tomorrow, and depending on her travel schedule, so that'll be great. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. You know, YouTube thinks that you'll actually like this next video right here. It's personalized based on your own viewing habits. So if you watch the video, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think about it, and we will see you next time, everyone.